Good evening. Happy to be back another night.
Right, that's right.
Yes,
We are back. We are back.
we are back.
What's going on?
Thank you guys for joining tonight. We are so excited to be back on this very, very special day, MLK. And if for those who don't know what that means, that is Martin Luther King Jr. And today we're honoring his birthday, and we're honoring his memory, and we're honoring all the sacrifices he's made. And we are excited to talk about that this evening. And we hope that you are also excited to join us for that. So today, as we honor Dr. Martin Luther King, we're not just looking back, we're looking in the mirror. Is his dream alive? Or has it died? Or is it evolving right in front of our eyes? We are living in times of tension, division, awakening, and transformation. But the question is tonight, are we closer to Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, or are we drifting away from it? So I'll ask my infamous question that I asked every week. How was your day, son? Did you enjoy your day off?
Oh yeah, today was a good day. Had a chance to rest. Had a chance to rest and speak to my aunt and go over some stuff about the book.
Oh, good.
Because the book is going to be coming out soon. We are finally in the final stages of the book. So today we was going over some intricate things to finalize the book. So excited about that.
Oh, that's fantastic. Unfortunately, I was not off today, so I had to work, and work I did. But with all that being said, I'm just excited to be back with you guys tonight.
Yes. So as she said, we're talking about Martin Luther King today. She's talking about, no, it's not. See, I didn't even say your name. See? I didn't even say your name. But tonight we're talking about Martin Luther King, as my mom said a few moments ago. Just talking about, like you said, about his dream in 2026. His dream wasn't just a finish line, it was a blueprint.
Right.
And many people don't realize that, and his blueprint still stands today.
Absolutely does. So, I mean, I have to ask myself sometimes, is MLK's dream, I have a dream, coming true in 2026? I mean, that was so many years ago when he made that infamous speech. And do you feel like we're any closer to that dream today, or do you feel like we're further away?
It's a little bit of both, right? And as you all know, as we go live on these topics, we don't share or communicate what we're talking about until we actually get on here. So I actually took each segment, right, talking about the three parts that we mentioned in our topic tonight, and I actually broke down each parts for 2026.
Oh wow, good.
Yeah,
Let's go for it.
So in my comments I got, it's not about left or right, black or white, rich or poor. It's about the values, responsibility, and the legacy, right? So when you hear MLK's dream, what comes to mind first?
Well, what comes to my mind always is going to be where we at as a people. Are we any closer to our freedom and civil rights and things of that such? So when I hear his name, I'm thinking about what his passion was, so that we could live in this country like everyone else and have the freedoms like everyone else, and not be judged by our appearance, but be judged by our character. So that's what comes to my mind always when I think about MLK.
Yeah. Same thing here. I feel like, we have came a long way, right? From those times, those days. But when you think about it though, it really wasn't that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
You're talking about the 50s, 60s, the 70s, even, it wasn't that long ago that people was really dealing with this kind of stuff, and still dealing with it today. And
that's what I was going to say. Are racial barriers breaking today, or have they reshaped today? That's what I was, pondering today. Like, are we, you said it, we are in a better position, but are we in our mindset?
Whew, that's deep,
and I don't mean just me and you, I mean collectively as a country.
Yeah. No, it's still deep. We talk offline about certain things that's transpired with the both of us, people that we know. And there's so many things that still is transpiring in 2026. And it's crazy to think about that. It's just crazy, man, that some of us are still dealing with some of the racial battles, discrimination that's still happening in society, in America, in today's time.
And that's the thing, because back in 2008, when Barack Obama took the presidency, I think at that point we felt like, okay, we are arriving. We have our first African-American president. And when he got on the stage and he would, give his speeches, it kind of reminded you a little bit of, MLK, and it inspired, I think, us as a nation. But it seems like today, politics have divided us again. And I don't know if social media have anything to do with that, but it just seems like today in 2026, opposed to 2008, and I hope I have my year correct, it just seems like we have gotten more divided since then.
Yeah, so let her put on here. At one point, we were breaking barriers. However, these past few years, we have actually gone backwards.
That's exactly what I feel sometimes. Like,
Yeah.
when you read the comments, I mean, social media, we always talk about how it's changed the game and how people now have a voice worldwide.
Right.
Like back in the days, we had these conversations with our friends and our family. Now we can just turn our phones on and have this conversation with the world. So we have firsthand accounts now on what people are really feeling, and they're expressing themselves. And sometimes it definitely feels like that, what my sister just said, like we're going backwards.
Right. So let's kind of dive deep into the dream, right? So like, what was the dream really about, right? And for me, I'm 33 years old, so I did some research on this today, just kind of because when this day comes about, people always share the dream, talk about
Right.
the dream, talk about him, at the White House, different things of that nature. But I really wanted to dissect some of these things of what did he really mean and talk about the dream, right? His dream included justice, not just about equality. It talked about economic dignity, right? Not just integration, unity, not just sameness, moral courage, not just comfort, peace, and not just silence. He spoke just as passionately about poverty and wealth inequality, the misuse of power. He spoke about the danger of, the responsibility of the church.
Right.
And that's a real key one, especially with this Drewski skit going viral.
Yeah, my goodness. Oh gosh. I got a pleasure of looking at it. My oldest daughter sent it to me, and I was like, oh my God.
He once said that America had given black people a bad check mark and insufficient funds, right? And that wasn't just racial; it was moral, economic, and just kind of going through some of those key points of what he stood for. I was really taken back by it because Black History Month is once a year.
Right.
And it's and you taught us growing up about so many different people. We just talking about the real McCoy.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? We were just talking about that. We were just talking about Simeon Toko.
Right. Yes.
Am I saying
yes.
his name pronounced?
You saying it right?
Simeon Toko.
Got that.
Okay.
Some people call him Simon, but I think it is really pronounced Simeon. You said
Simeon.
it right.
So there's so many people that is African American, Black, that we don't talk about when it comes to Black History Month. We talk about MLK. He did amazing things. And for me, I like to always go deep and study other people.
Take a deep dive, yeah.
Take a deep dive into other people, into other great things that Black people has done. And I did the same thing today for MLK. For the first time, I think in my whole life, I really delved deep into what he stood for as far as his speeches and things that he's done.
And as we're approaching Black History Month, my theory has always been we do not have to wait for February to come for us to, or MLK's birthday, for us to do our research. There are so many great pioneers that our children, whether the school and educational system, have not taught. And to be inspired, like I'm always sending my kids stuff, and I know they're like, oh, one of the things I'm always say is one of the infamous words that Marcus Garvey said. He was known for each one teach one. And that's one of my favorite lines, because we have a responsibility as elders. And now you are elder.
Not yet. Not yet.
You are an elder.
Not yet.
You got a teenage daughter, dog, you're an elder.
No, she's
So we have a responsibility as elders to look back and teach. and not just wait for this day or, like you said, excuse me, I'm getting all tired laughing at him, MLK, that we could really focus on educating our children, because really, it really does make a difference in your self-confidence when you know where you come from and stuff like that.
And here was my key takeaway from doing some studying today. When you think of Martin Luther King, you think of everybody getting along.
Right.
Right. But that really was never his premise, in the sense of everybody getting along. I mean, everybody will not ever just get along. Right. We want that to happen.
Right.
But everybody's just going to have some way, shape, or form to disagree. The dream was about a fair system. It was about accountability and leadership.
Wow.
And it was about human dignity.
Wow. Now that's important, because when you are getting, dogs, biting on you, and they're sicking dogs, and they throwing
fire hose,
yeah,
water hose on you.
you're getting swamped by water hoses and watermelons being thrown on you. That takes away your dignity as a man,
right.
Especially if that's happening to you in front of your family.
Right.
So that is important. One of the things that I was shocked about, and I knew this before, but, just doing a deep dive today, was that he was so intelligent as a young student.
Oh, yes.
He was extremely intelligent. He skipped 2 grades.
Yes.
And entered Morehouse College at just 15 years old.
Right.
That's exceptional. You know what I mean? So you just shows you how he had a great mind. And it also, for me, spiritually speaking, it made me feel like, our God that we serve, he knows the beginning and the end. And he was taken away from us at such a young age. I mean, he was only 39. And so you think about, you might say, why did he go to college so early? God knows the end. He had a lot to do, and he did so much in those 39 years.
Right.
Amazing.
Our books are being removed from libraries. Lessons have been removed from classrooms, and racism is widely accepted. Prime example, the removal of D&I, diversity and inclusion. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's true.
Books are being removed. People don't want to read anymore. It's just like, I'm guilty of it sometimes myself. Just look up something, boom. We had encyclopedias when we was growing up, and some kids don't even know what that is.
I know. And listen, y'all please like, share, comment, tag. I see y'all hearting us on TikTok. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yes.
We're
talking about the great MLK tonight.
Yes.
The great MLK.
So let me ask this question, y'all. Do y'all think we have really made progress? Do y'all think what MLK has done for society, for humanity, do y'all think we really made progress? And I got some notes that's going to acknowledge the reality of that. But I want to ask y'all, do y'all think we really made progress?
Yes, I think we have made progress. Obviously, I grew up in New York City, and there was a time back in the 60s where we couldn't even get on a bus and sit at our choice seats. There were great people that was in the movement with MLK that made those sacrifices for us to be able to get on a city bus and sit where we want. Obviously we can go to a choice of restaurants now that we was not able to do then. And there were so many pioneers that sacrificed. When I think about the sacrifices that people made, for our lives today, I'm shocked by it, and how we today as a society, how sometimes we do not even remember the type of honor that they did. So yeah, we've made progress. But like my sister said earlier tonight, I think in some areas we are going backwards.
Oh my God. That is so true. We are going backwards in so many areas. So watch this, you all. So let's acknowledge the reality of what you said. Did we make progress? There's more representation in leadership than ever before of African Americans. Right. Okay. What's up, y'all? People are trying to join the live.
Oh, wow.
What's up? We're going to let y'all join the live.
Yes.
One of these lives.
Yes.
So there's more representation and leadership more ever than before. Right. There's access to education and information on a wider spectrum.
Right.
Right. And that's, of course, thanks to the internet, thanks to AI now.
Right.
There's legal protections that exist that did not exist before.
Okay.
There's conversations about mental health, race, and justice that's more open than ever before. One of the things I appreciate about, I won't say his name. I said his name last week, but Pastor G.
Okay.
Is the fact that we was able to have real conversations about race, although he was a Caucasian male.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
that was profound. We used to sit down at the table and we would have these conversations because I'm going to be tactful. I think that when we look at ourselves as a race of people, a lot of times we are judging ourselves by different shades. Are you dark skin? Are you light skin? Are you brown skin? And one of the things that we've learned from talking with our Caucasian pastor at the time, he said, we don't see the shades the way you guys see it.
Right.
So these conversations need to happen. I think sometimes it's in our mind more than anybody else's mind.
Right. That's so true. He was like, we as black people, we say, oh, she's red. She got a red bone, or he's a red. They say God's red bones.
Yeah, they do. They
Okay.
do.
Or he's black, or he's, a black, they black to them is just black, right?
And that was, I'm so glad you said that because growing up in New York, it was, you was dark skinned. But when
Right.
you came down here, there was no such thing as dark skin.
Yeah, you just black.
You were just black. Oh, that boy black. I was like, what kind of ignorant crap,
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we label ourselves with different shades as opposed to just being, I guess, whatever you want to consider yourself, African American or whatever you want to title yourself,
And when we had this conversation with the pastor at the time, because we had very candid conversations, and he was like, I don't see color. Like, I don't see a shade.
No.
A black person's a black person.
Right.
And it's like, going back to the Willie Lynch story in his letter, we are the ones who always differentiate that, oh, I don't like him because he's dark skinned. I don't like her because he's light skinned. You know what I'm saying? But other nationalities and other races only see us as one complexion.
Right. Either you're black or you're white or you and honestly, we need to get away from that for sure, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay.
So we have doors that has opened today that were locked in 1963.
Okay. I definitely can.
That was so profound. But here's the thing, y'all. Progress doesn't mean completion.
No, absolutely does not.
We still have a long way to go. I mean, a long way to go. I mean, I have stories that I'm dealing with now in 2026 personally that it just don't make sense for anybody to deal with when it comes to your job, when it comes to business, when it comes to life, when it comes to just society, that it just doesn't make sense. And you ask yourself, like I just mentioned, 1963, we had so many doors that were locked for African Americans. And here we are in 2026, and some of those doors are still locked.
And that's the absolute truth. And the thing is today, my youngest son is teaching me the proper terms of like cancel, what is it called? Cancel
culture.
Cancer culture. And so now you have to be, even this conversation, we have to be so very careful on the type of verbiage that we use, but really you're correct. Here we are in 2026 and we're still dealing sometimes with some things that are unbelievable that we're still dealing with in 2026. And even as an African American, dark skinned, dare I say, woman, when you work in corporate America, unfortunately, I remember, when my son was younger, he's extremely dark skinned, my youngest son, and beautiful, beautiful silk. I used to call him like, you have such a silk complexion. I want him to love himself, and every bit of himself. And I remember when the teacher actually admitted to me, and because we got to know each other, that when they would see darker skinned students, they would see them as a threat. They would see them as they're going to automatically be the worst student in the class. They're going to be the dumbest kid in the class. And I mean, those preconceived notions. So you deal with that. You think that stops when they're in school? No, it travels to adulthood. Right. So when you become an adult, a grown man working in certain positions and things, they still see certain, skin complexions as a threat. Like it's harder to look at, a darker skinned person. It seems like the lighter you are, you're a little more easy on the eyes. That's what they told me. I'm not even going.
And less of a threat.
And less of a threat. So, those are the things that we're really trying to move away from. And those are some of the things that I think that, MLK was trying to move from too, because his whole premise was love, right? Love right. Transforms enemies. And he wanted to have a world where people could be, like you said, judged on their character, not their outer layer, right. Just their character, who they was as a person.
Right. So let's talk about regression. Right. Let's start with regression because we talked about that in our topic. So watch this. Despite the progress, let's talk about regression in 2026 with our dear brother, Martin Luther King Jr. right? In 2026, that's what we got. We have more communities now that are more divided,
Yes.
right? We have trust is at an all-time low. You know, you hear people say all the time, I can't do business with black people, or I can't do business because he's black. I can't do business with family.
From us.
Right. From black people.
From us. People
You know
that
what
look
I'm
like
saying?
you and me.
And it's like, and I get it. Some black businesses do not hold up the end of the bargain, and it makes it difficult. It is a challenge sometimes, right? I'm not saying everybody's bad, but we have to learn to teach, learn, have the humility to want to grow, to want to take constructive criticism, to want to be better so you can produce a better product and have a great business, right? So the trust at an all-time low.
And we have to be trustworthy as individuals. We have to be trustworthy and fair.
Right. Have the good character. Violence is often glorified at an all-time high. You look at the music that we listen to, the rap music, you know, you got these rappers who were borderline serial killers.
Wow.
You know, that's glorified in these songs. They glorified in the communities. Most of our kids want to be just like them, you know, so violence is glorified. Social media amplifies the outrage over understanding, right? And then you have economic gaps that continue to widen. And you shared a TikTok video of a Caucasian girl that talked about just being a Caucasian girl back in the 70s or 60s, how her granddad was able to buy a property
Right.
that was redlined back then. A red line mean that black people could not buy certain real estate in certain communities.
It was just systemically set up that way. Right.
Right, and it was called redlining. So her grandfather, just because he was a Caucasian man, was able to buy a property. Was this in New York?
I don't know where it was.
I forgot the state it was in. But long story short, he was able to buy a property 30, 40, 50 years ago at the time where black people could not buy said property in that particular neighborhood. They was able to sell the property many years later for, I think they bought it for $100,000 and they sold it for $1 million. And everybody of their lineage was able to take profits from that. The dad gave money to all his children. And as a result, the young girl, she made this TikTok video maybe like, a couple of days ago?
Yeah.
And she was like, because of just being a white female, being in a white family,
Right.
that nothing special. She talked about how her family wasn't special. They didn't have any money. But just because of their skin complexion, they was able to have certain access 30 years ago to buy a property that sold for $1 million. And she was able to go to all these private schools.
Right.
And she was saying on the video just that that black people are at a disadvantage in society just because of the color of their skin.
Yeah, absolutely. And she also, there was a point you said that I wanted to make that she said, she said that he was even able to go to law school.
Yes.
And he didn't even have like, quote, well, she inferred that he didn't maybe even have the credentials, that he was able
Right.
just to get into the school just because he was a white man. And because of that reason, he was able to get in school. So he didn't have to like climb certain mountains that maybe we would have done
Right.
to even get into that same school. So she was basically making the point that that she understood that there was a white advantage that her family benefited from just for, being a Caucasian, like you said. So yeah, I mean, there is just those systemic things that we deal with then and that we're still dealing with now.
And like she said, you can't even put the two together, because just based upon that fact, black people are 40 years behind.
Right.
Just based upon that example.
Right.
And that was her words.
Right.
On the video.
And you can't, and so we have to get our mind, we have to be taught, right? But we have to be humble enough to be taught about generational wealth. Like, I mean, one of the things that really hurt me is when I see people that, African-American, let me just go to what you asked the question earlier, 1960s to 2026.
Okay.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about is people in the 1960s were willing to march for hours.
Discipline.
Willing to sacrifice their jobs and safety. Now, that is a point that I have to honestly say that I find a lot of people are not willing to do, because we're so comfortable now and we're making money now. It's like, I can't say this. I can't say that. I can't afford to lose my job. You know what I mean? So then they were like, you know what? The cause and the movement was more important than the job. So you know what? And it was community. And that's one of my favorite words. Community is there. So everybody looked out for each other. Okay, if you lost your job, then you can come eat at my house tonight. You know what I mean? And they stopped. They didn't get that bus right to sit anywhere just because they didn't sit on the bus for one day. Right. It was a long time that everybody was walking. They put them almost out of business. So, they were united under the common pain of not being treated right. So they pulled together the churches led the movements, and there was no social media. It was word of mouth that built the momentum. And today in 2026, we are quick to post, but we are slow to act.
Mm-hmm.
We are emotionally and mentally overwhelmed and easily distracted.
Right.
And protesters are loud today, but they are short lived. I'm telling you, then it was by any means necessary. So if we have to walk for months, we're going to walk because we were so uncomfortable that we are willing to sacrifice to get uncomfortable. We're going to get comfortable, excuse me. And today we are so comfortable that we are not willing to get uncomfortable.
Mm.
So that's a big difference from then to now. And we don't want to lose our stuff.
Mm.
And I'm speaking to myself, so let me just say that I'm preaching to the choir.
And it kind of ties back to, we live next to each other, but do we really care about each other? You know what I'm saying? Do we really care? And I go back to my favorite movie, Bronx Tale.
Almost one of my favorites too, cult classic.
Where my man says, nobody cares.
Right.
Because do we really care? You know what I'm saying? Like you said, we're so quick to post about it, but we're slow to act. That was so good. Oh, we got some comments in here. Y'all write some long comments. During class today, I was the only colored student in class and never felt intimidated at all. In fact, I felt empowered. I thought I was the baddest person in the room.
All right, sister. Snap, snap. Can I give a little hit? Well, I don't want to hit the wrong button, but I hit that.
Real estate agents, I like that. Trying to read it. Real estate agents are like that still today. Before my husband started going with me to look at properties, my agent was only showing homes in underserved neighborhoods. Once my husband started to come with me, the neighborhoods changed. Oh, so your husband is what race?
What is your race that made the difference? What was your husband's race?
I'm gonna let you type that as we're speaking. So as I mentioned, Dr. King warned about desegregation without integration of hearts would fail. So watch this, y'all. We gained access, but we lost empathy, right? So we gained access to all the different things like that you mentioned, right? But we lost the empathy, we lost the care. In my opinion, we lost the care in certain areas, right? We gained the platforms, but we lost the listening.
Right.
Right? We gained freedom, but we lost accountability.
Wow.
And that is so key when you talk about the churches, when you talk about, and that seems to be the heighten right now is the churches. The churches are on fire.
Right. The churches are on fire.
And really, let me say this: it's the mega churches, not your smaller churches that's trying to survive and strive. Somebody shared that on Facebook, was talking about even with the church thing, with the Drewski thing, that it was more so targeted to mega churches, not the storefront church that maybe have 10 members or 5 members or maybe even 50 members trying to grow their church, trying to pay their bills, right? So it's not all churches, right? It's a few.
Right. So my sister said that her husband's Italian. So because he was Italian, whenever I guess her real estate agent saw him, he just assumed that he would want to be in a more privileged community.
I mean, you could probably share a story, people you've been around, friends, going to places.
What my son is trying to say. Well, yeah, I mean, I did experience that,
Yeah.
I dated someone outside my race for the first time in my life, which wasn't because I was never attracted to them. It's just that I never, I got married young, but either way, I dated someone outside my race, and I could honestly tell you, which was shocking to me as a very, when we would walk into restaurants, I was treated differently. Simple things where I would go to a place one time and was treated a certain way. And then when he would walk through the door, I got treated another way. And I was like, what is that? Why is that happening that I'm not getting treated this way just because I am me?
Right.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there was definitely, we are still living, unfortunately, in times where, people just automatically assume If you are, there was the old thing that said, if you're white, you're right. If you're black, you get back. If you're brown, you stay around. You know what I mean? They had all these little jingles back then, but it's really something that we have to, and that's why it is important to have interracial dating and have diversity and be around different communities so that we can all use our differences to make a difference in this world for real. Because if we all just stay in our own little boxes, we stay in our own little boxes. But when we get around different cultures, different religions, we get a different outlook on life, you know what I mean? And we gain a different respect for other people when we're around them. There were things that we would have, when I dated this guy outside my race, we would have real conversations.
Right.
And he would say, these were the things that I was always told about you as a people. And then I would say, it's what I was told. And it was like, wow, what nonsense it was. But if I never had the opportunity with him, with my pastors, with different people, we would just be stuck with our own mindset. It is important to get out of your comfort zone and work on diversity because it's important. It's so important. You know what I mean? Like I know about Puerto Rican culture, German culture, it's important to know that and eat the foods and learn about that and teach your kids about that and then gain a community with other races so that we can fight together for the common cause of civil rights for everyone.
Right. And with that, let's jump into revival, right? What the dream looked like in 2026, right? A modern revival of the dream would include accountability and leadership. There's so many things I hate to harp on pastors, but there's so many things with pastors going on right now. And again, listen, we all have fallen short, right? So that's why I never... So seriously, even like in my job, there's people that I talk to when it's time to go to the jail. I always say, listen, I'm no better than you. We all have fallen short. I've made mistakes every single day. I made mistakes today. And, many times the reason why many of us are not in those positions is because a lot of times we didn't get caught.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
From things that we've done. It could be the most minute things that could have landed us all in jail or got somebody killed or got us killed, car accidents, but it's only because of God's grace. So just having accountability and leadership, have mercy and grace on people, but also show accountability. Strong families and communities, the importance of having men be role models in your households or be positive and affluent in your communities, whether you're with your child's mother or not, whether you're married or not, whether you have different baby mamas or not. Being an active father, being an active male role model in a community. Right. Economic literacy and opportunity. Be willing to learn.
Right.
Get your credit fixed.
Right.
And I'm talking to myself because I got to get my credit back to the high 790s like it was before. But, having the economic literacy, have life insurance, create opportunities for your families. You know what I'm saying? We got to stop doing these fish fries and these GoFundMes, get the proper coverage, get the proper protection for your household, for your family, having youth mentorships.
Right. I was going to say that.
I'm so grateful that we have Men Matter.
Right.
The organization that our nonprofit that we have, right here in Columbia, South Carolina, and we have some things with the youth coming up, have courageous conversations. Be willing to have those tough conversations. I always said people not willing to have tough conversations. Be willing to have crazy conversations. And lastly, personal responsibility, not just protests.
Right.
Learn to have personal self-responsibility, accountability for yourself, for your actions, for the mistakes that you make in your life.
Right.
And I think that would help revive MLK's mission, his dream in 2026.
I think that's so great because, there are so many organizations that people are sacrificing. I'll just speak to yours. You're sacrificing your time. You have a family, you have children, and you have responsibilities of your businesses, and you're sacrificing your time to create a Men's Matter. And so it is important for us to support that, and support Black owned businesses or support that, to get out there and just say, hey, you got your business. Let's support that. There's just so many things. Back in the 60s, like I said, we had that community where if a father passed away, somebody else stepped up and became a father. But today we don't have that. They might come in during a funeral, pat the little kid on the head and say, yeah, we got you. But they really don't today.
Right.
They really don't. Even in your own families back then, today family is nothing the way it was back then.
Right.
I mean, so we've gotten so away from the vision and the dream of Martin Luther King, because ultimately his dream was love. So if you love somebody, you want to cover that person. You don't leave a child out there that don't have a father, or a daughter that don't have a mother, and we don't leave them out there to raise themselves. We as a community get together and find that child and pick her up and see what we can do. Back in the days, people didn't even have the finances that we have today. And grandma would get out there and bake cookies, bake cakes, and give them to the church. We've got to get back busy and stop being so self-consumed with ourselves and our families. And we have to support each other. And that was his dream. Love, 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 love. You know what I mean? Because love covers.
A multitude. And that's the thing. Revival don't just start with the government, because we love to blame the government.
Right.
We love to say what the president's not doing. And, you know, it don't matter who's in office. Right? Revival in the community starts in homes. It starts in our churches. It starts in our schools, and it starts in our communities. Right? The dream doesn't need new slogans. The dream needs new standards.
I love what you said. It starts in the home, the community, and the churches. I mean, how we all love to talk about Black Wall Street all the time, but you know, back then when they had their own hospitals and businesses, I mean, and one of my dear sisters said the church should be able, especially the mega churches, to offer some of those things to the community. Of course, where it's not costing, you know, so much money, that we are just, as we get, you know, it shouldn't be separation of churches. We should get together and pull our resources together to start things and to build things. I think I was happy. I went to a church this Sunday, and when I was leaving the church, I think I saw the church had their own bank. I was like, man,
Yeah, that's powerful.
that's powerful.
That is powerful.
I was
I like
man,
that.
I love it. Black-owned church with their own bank. And I said, I'm going to go there. I said, I'm going to go support and open up an account there. We have to get back to doing that type of stuff to support each other. And I mean, and that's everybody, you know, because civil rights is for every human to be treated with love. You know what I mean? Now, I mean, and like you said, ML's dream was not just for us. It was for everybody.
For everybody. You know, and Dr. King once said that life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?
Wow. Oh my gosh.
Right? So maybe the real question isn't, you know, is the dream still alive?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe is, are we willing to live it?
Oh,
right?
Gosh.
Are we willing to sacrifice comfort?
Mm-hmm.
Are we willing to be accountable? Are we willing to build instead of blame? You know, are we willing to do those things? Because, you know, in reality, you know, we are so consumed as a people. When I say people, I don't mean black. I mean black, white, blue, green. We are so consumed with what we have going on. We are so consumed that I need more money. I need a bigger house. I need a better car. I need this. I need, you know, but are we willing to do the things to say, what can I do to help and serve other people?
Right. And that's the thing. So I have a question for you. If Dr. Martin Luther King could come and you can have a conversation with him today, what would you ask him, or what would you ask him? And that's the audience question too. If he could sit in your living room, what would be the one question you would ask him?
Man, I'll probably ask him,
It's pretty something to think about,
I'll
right?
probably ask him, man, you know, how'd you get so wise? Like, what books did you read?
Okay.
You know, what books did you read to get the wisdom that you have? Obviously, God gave it to him, right? But what books did you read, and how did you withstand adversity?
Right. That's a good question. Yeah, because what made you so courageous? So very courageous, and have the tenacity to keep going, even when he was, in some cases, humiliated and things like that, and he just kept going. And I mean, him and his whole team of people.
That's so good. And
Yeah, somebody said we are too me-centric. That's absolutely true.
oh, that is so true.
Mm-hmm.
Now watch this. If the next generation asks, what did we do to keep the dream alive? What would the answer be?
Oh gosh.
Like, I think about my kids, right? My daughter's 13, and I think about it, I'm like, man, I only got a few more years left with her before she go to college.
Right.
You know, really 13, she'll be 14 this year, so I really got about a good 3.5, 4 years left with her before she go to school. You know, our son he'll be 10 this month, and my baby girl's 9. So I'm like, man, what would their viewpoints be? How would the world be by the time they become adults? what would happen during those times? How would the world be with AI and, social equality and different things of that nature by the time they become my age, 30 something years old, if we're still here, if the Lord ain't come back by then.
Way things are going, he might be cracking this guy open tonight.
I'll be thinking about that, and this is just thoughts I'll be having to myself.
And somebody asked me one time, what is the solution to world war? What is the solution? I mean, we can come up with, oil, this, that, and the other, what is the solution? And he answered the question for me. He said, if everyone just loved, there would be no war.
Mm-hmm.
There would be no war because love cares. Love takes time. Love is not selfish. You know what I mean? Love is really, that is what it, and that was the ultimate thing that Jesus said, right? He said, the greatest of all of the commandments is love. So if we love somebody, we're not looking at their skin color. We're not looking at that they got a big house. We're not looking at their jobs. We're not looking at their status. We just want to love. So that's what we need to be inspiring towards.
So what said my boy Malcolm X need his own day. We celebrate. The day that we celebrate, he did a lot for the Black community. He really did.
Absolutely. You know what? Listen, you can't be, listen, I am all about that. Yes. Because I made sure my kids learned about, and I've always told my sons, and I tell every African-American man that I come across, teenagers, that the one book they need to read is the autobiography of Malcolm X, because it's such a powerful book. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah, I'm with that. It should be.
Right.
Because you got to give Martin Luther King a credit, because Malcolm X was like, you ain't about to throw no watermelon on me and I'm standing here. And you ain't hosing me down and I'm going to get back up and just keep walking, so but the bottom line was you had to give Martin Luther King a lot of credit that people was just doing all those things and slapping them and they just kept walking non-violence.
Mm.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive. That's all I can say.
What a time to be alive, I mean, if somebody walked up to you today and just punched you in the face or spit on you and you just keep walking. I mean, think about those people that endured all of that. And then they did all of that for us to be sitting where we're sitting today. And some of us we don't even take advantage of it, the sacrifices that they made.
I know.
And that's when I really do feel sad. That's why I'm stirred up this year. Like I said, no delay, getting your dreams out here, getting your passions done, walking in love, pulling in your communities, and getting out there, seeing who you can bless. And not just monetary, what time too. What time?
He put right. He wasn't with all that nonsense. So Malcolm X did not play that.
I sent you something today with Malcolm X. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So listen, y'all, as always, we don't want to keep you guys too long. We appreciate y'all for tuning in, tapping in with Walking Against the Current. I'm going to end with this, right? The dream doesn't die from hatred alone, as we talked about love, right? It dies when good people stop caring. And it revives the moment someone decides, I won't just quote the dream, I'll live it.
And that's the thing. So I think what we want to do with Walking Against the Current is we want to inspire everyone. This is why we're here. I mean, why are you here tonight? You know what I mean? We're here because we want to make a difference in the world. We don't want it just to stop with Facebook and TikTok and Instagram. We want this message to be transformed to the world, to walk against the current. And that means loving everybody, not looking at people's skin color, just loving people from all over the nations, to love everyone. So my ending topic would be, despite living only 39 years young, his impact reshaped civil rights, nonviolent protests, and the moral conscience of the world. At just 39 years old, he made that much of an impact that we're still talking about him in 2026. Wow. And we'll be talking about him for many more years.
Yeah, forever. Forever. So y'all, thank y'all so much for tuning in. Y'all, please tap in next week to Walking Against the Current. Like, share, subscribe, and tune into the show. We love y'all. Peace out.
All right.